How you doing? So as I shared in my daily millionaire news, I'm going to do a couple of fun videos today. Again, just live streams, no editing, none of that, just kind of off the top of my head. I do have a rough outline, but this one is going to be about Mark Cuban potentially running for president. Uh, this has been out there for a while, although I sense a momentum moving in that direction. I also, for the first time, sense from Mark that he is seriously considering it. When I've watched Mark Cuban presentations or talks in the past, he's kind of always said, yeah, that's an interesting idea. Not for me, not for me, not for me. I have seen him over the last 10 days not really say he's interested, but you can see how he has changed answering questions that really makes it look like he's creating sound bites for a potential run for president. So, what does it mean? First off, I think it's clear Mark Cuban would run as a third party candidate. A third party candidate, at least in my lifetime, and certainly in my voting lifetime, has really been tried, many times, but kind of most successfully, again, in my opinion, was by Ross Perot. It's been tried by Ross Perot at least. I think he did it more than twice, but I only remember twice. And it was really his first run where he got really national attention. And I remember Ross Perot coming on national TV. I believe he bought the time himself because he was a billionaire before everybody was a billionaire. And he brought up these charts, these simple charts, and put them on TV to kind of educate people about I think it was all debt and GDP and where we're spending our money. And he just had, you know, this nice, easy Texas kind of way of presenting and talking to us and really put everything in context that you and I can understand. Obviously, I think the first time he ran, he got like 12% of the vote, which at the time for a third party candidate was quite impressive. I do not believe he won a single state, but he impacted the election. And to be 100% transparent, I voted for Ross Perot the first time he ran. I did not vote for him the second time. I forget who I voted for, but I did vote for Ross Perot the first time. I just liked how he was different. He was a businessman. I really took Ross Perot as not a politician, which at the time excited me, and frankly today excites me. So, what could a Mark Cuban run for president mean? When you again look at the chessboard and how this could impact, I think you have to ask a couple of things. First off, does Mark Cuban entering the presidential race change the conversations? And I think it does. And I think this is important. I think if we just have Biden and Trump in the election, what we will see on national TV is a he said, she said, all talk about past events. And I don't think that's good for our economy. I don't want to hear how Trump shut down China, travel, and he saved lives. I don't need to hear about that. I know it happened. I know it was a great move. Congratulations, you got one. And then I don't need to hear Biden talk about all the things he'd have done different. Man, this thing should be over by then. Stop. I just envision a election that is 90% talking about the past when we should be talking about the future. I believe most adults, and certainly most kids of memory age, will think about this pre and post this health event. And I think if we have an election with just Biden and Trump, all we hear about is the past, which will just be disappointing and probably piss me off in reality. I think if Cuban comes in, though, Mark Cuban, I think we start talking about the future. I don't think he falls in the trap of let's talk about the past and what do I do different. I don't see him doing that. Every time I hear Mark talk these days, it's about what we should do in the future, what we should change, how we should get small business going, how we should bring some manufacturing home. I know Mark Cuban doesn't have any of the traditional political background and his international experience and all that other important things in politics, but you know what? He could hire those people. He could add those people to his cabinet. And I think he would. I think he realizes that he is only good at a sliver of things. And he would just round out his cabinet with experienced politicians and people that would fill in the gaps. So I think Mark Cuban is interested in. I think he's an interesting candidate. Do I think a third party can win? Not really. Although, if I ever thought there was an election where a third party could come in last minute and win, it's this one. I think the world is changing. I think a third party. I think Mark Cuban will do better than Ross Perot in the first run. I think Mark could win states. I really don't think he has a chance to win the election, but he has a change to impact the conversation, which would allow you and I to have a view of Biden and Trump about the future. We need to be talking about the future. What is going to change? What's an infrastructure bill look like? Is it just old thinking, bridges and trains, or is it new thinking, communications and 5G and all these other things? What could it be versus what old thinking is like? I think that's interesting. The other thing you have to ask yourself when you have a third party candidate run is, who does he hurt more? And what I mean by hurt more is he is likely to take votes away from one or the other. So if Mark Cuban runs, the question I have, and I'm not sure yet, who does he hurt more? Does he take Biden votes away, or does he take Trump votes away? My current guess is he actually hurts Biden, because what I see in all the stats is, if you're a Trump supporter, you are a Trump supporter, right? You think he can do no wrong. But if I don't see the same conviction in Biden supporters. So if it's just Biden and Trump, and if you play the game and Biden can win that 1-to-1 match, I think Mark Cuban entering the race hurts Biden and actually increases the chance of Trump winning. I haven't really played all the angles yet, but that's what I think. So I'd be curious what you think. If Mark Cuban gets in, who do you think he hurts more, Trump or Biden? Just leave the comment below. I just want to see if I'm right. Again, I think, at least as I sit here today, he hurts Biden more. Then what's his platform? This is what I'm really thinking about. This is why it's on this real estate channel, is what would Mark Cuban's, platform be? And I think it's the American economy. I think it's all about America. I think it's about the American people. I think it's about American business. That's kind of who he is. And I think it would be interesting to have that conversation. I think a Mark Cuban running for president would really coalesce folks around the America versus what would just boil down to a name calling contest if we just have the other two. So I think that's interesting. And then, of course, it's a real estate channel. What do I think a Mark Cuban presidency, a win, would mean for real estate? I think if Mark Cuban won the presidency, real estate goes up. Why do I say that? Again, go back to what I talk about on this channel, and really what I talked about before this health event. I talk about the consumer psychology, right? I talk about it being on a plane of fear and greed. I think if Mark Cuban won the election, he would win by being positive. He would win by making about America and the American citizens, the American employee. I think it would be really good for real estate. I think cost of capital would go up as we kind of adjust for risk premiums, for sure. But I think a Mark Cuban win would mean, I think we would get behind that. I think if it's a Biden or Trump win, we still have half the folks going, not my president, not my president. And that's just, I don't need 4 more years of that nonsense. I think if we coalesced around Cuban and somehow he won, again, go back to 5 minutes ago, I don't think he does. But if you put that hat on and think about it, I think a Mark Cuban win would mean we're together. That's the only way an independent third-party candidate can win, is if you pulled some Republicans and some Democrats, and we got that. Yeah, well, Ross Perot, oh, you voted for him both times. Yeah, I remember that first time he came on TV, did those charts. I was like, oh man, this guy gets it. Simple conversations. So I think it's interesting. I first off think he runs just because I want the election to be more about us than name calling. I think if we get a Biden Trump election. We just call each other names for a while. I think we have half the country hating the other half, which is not what I want. It's not where I want to live. It's doesn't help us. We are Americans, together, not Democrats or Republicans or independents. We're Americans first. So I hope he runs. I hope he declares soon. Uh, and I actually hope he wins. I would love to see us talk about the future and coalesce and really make it about America. So I think Mark Cuban is the candidate that brings us together. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes for it. He's going to have to go for it soon. He's going to have to get infrastructure going and all of that. But yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was a fun conversation. Let me know what you think below. Does he hurt Trump or Biden more? I think he hurts Biden more, but I don't know. Let me know what you think. Have a great day. Bye.